Hi, it's Maya here, and this is my 2015 wrap-up on 2016 goals. First, let's take a look at how my 2015 went. My Goodreads goal was 60 books, and I managed to read 90 books, of which 34 books were comics volumes or graphic novels. I read 48 books by women, 35 books by men, and 7 were comics with men and women on the team. At the beginning of the year, I had set myself a list of 10 specific science fiction and fantasy books that I wanted to get read during 2015, and I managed to read 6 of those. I thought 6 was pretty well, especially when I really enjoyed all of the books that I read. I read Ancillary Justice by Ann Leckie, The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Edison, A Stranger in Olondria by Sofia Samatar, The Mad Ship by Robin Hobb, Swords Point by Ellen Kushner, and The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. I managed to write a review of all those books for my blog, and I'll link all of them down below in the description. The ones that I didn't manage to get to from the list were City of Stairs by Robert Jackson Bennett, The Magicians by Lev Grossman, The Mirror Empire by Cameron Hurley, and Feed by Myra Grant. In 2015, I also managed to make a good headway in my goal of reading all of Christie's Poirot books in order. I managed to read 5 of them. Those were the big 4 Poirot's early cases: The Mystery of the Blue Train, Black Coffee, and Peril at the End House. They are progressively getting better, and I'm really looking forward to moving forward from Christie's early work into her better books. At the beginning of the year, I also said that I wanted to focus more on books I read and talking about the books I read on this channel. So that means doing more reviews and wrap-ups instead of TBRs and hauls. TBRs don't really work for me in general, but I did do one TBR video this year, which was my Booktubeathon TBR, and challenges and readathons are about the only exceptions of when I will actually make a TBR and manage to stick to it. I also only filmed 2 hauls and 1 unboxing, which was a giveaway win, so I didn't really buy that many books this year. So I did have more reviews and wrap-ups on my channel than hauls and TBRs, but I really didn't have that many of those either. I had 5 reviews or wrap-ups, and I did write those 6 reviews on my blog, but I didn't manage to make video reviews out of them. This is something that I slowly want to continue to work on, to film more reviews for you guys. In 2015, I also started my Guide to Finnish Science Fiction and Fantasy, which was something I didn't even know that I was going to be doing at the beginning of the year. And I managed to make 2 of those videos. They're not strictly speaking reviews, but I really like making those. Now, one goal that I felt miserably in 2015 was my Project 5. So that was read 5 books from a physical TBR and then buy 1. I managed to only complete 1 list, and after that I got distracted by library books. When I had managed to complete that 1 list, I gave myself permission to go to the library and borrow a lot of books that I wanted to read. And then I just continued to only read library books during the whole year, so I pretty much didn't read that much more of my own books. So that was what I did in 2015, and now it's time to talk about my 2016 goals. I set my Goodreads challenge to 66 books, which is my regular amount. I mainly just use Goodreads for tracking how many books I've read. I don't want to really challenge myself to read a lot. Then I once again made a list of specific books that I want to read during the year. Now, I've done this twice before, and every time I only managed to read 6 books. So this time I'm only going to choose 5 books instead of 10. But I'm also cheating a little and trying to get myself to read more of my set books by making 2 separate lists. So I'm going to have 5 science fiction and fantasy books that I want to read, and then 3 classics that I want to read. So these are separate lists, so of course I will be reading more than 6 this time, right? The science fiction and fantasy books that I challenge myself to read are from authors that I enjoyed during the past year, and I want to be sure to read more from them this year, as well as a couple of books that I've been eyeing for a longer amount of time, and I really think that I would like. Those books are The Privilege of the Sword by Ellen Kushner. This is the second of the Riverside books, and I read Swords Point this year. The Broken Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. This is the second book in the Inheritance trilogy, and I read the first book, 100,000 Kingdoms, this year. I also want to read Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch, which is the second Gentleman Bastard book. I read the first book at the end of 2014, I think. And then I want to read 2 books from new authors for me, which are The Golem and the Genie by Helen Recker and A Natural History of Dragons by Mary Brennan. Then I also made the list of 3 classics. I only managed to read 2 classics this past year, and both of those were modern science fiction classics. So for this list I chose Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh, Hangsaman by Shirley Jackson, and Dracula by Bram Stoker, which I've actually read one time during high school, but I can't remember much about it. Then my biggest challenge is something I found from a book blog called James Reads Books, and I will link it down below, and that is the TBR Triple Dog Dare. That is the dare of only reading books that were already on your TBR stack before the end of the year. I'm going to go for the full Triple Dog Dare, which is to read only those books for the first 3 months of 2016. You can also include books that you have already ordered but not received from the library, so books that I have reserved in 2015 that start to come in by this point. I'm allowed to read those in addition to my own TBR books. So from January 1st to April 1st, I'm only going to be reading books that are already on my TBR shelf. Let's see if this goes any better than the Project 5 books. So those were all my bigger challenges. I also want to continue to try and do more reviews and wrap-ups on this channel, and I'm also going to continue reading the poorer books in order. And I also want to post at least 2 Guide to Finnish Science Fiction and Fantasy videos during the first half of the year. So those were all my 2016 goals. Read 66 books, read the specific books that I listed, and only read my own books during the first 3 months of the year. What are your goals for 2016? Let me know in the comments and I'll see you later.